If you've ever wondered what it takes to go from a complete beginner in German to mastering the German language at an expert level, you're in the right place. In this series, we'll explore all 6 levels of German learning, from A1 to C2, and uncover what you need to know at each stage, and more importantly, what you need to be able to do with the language to truly master German. Think of German fluency as an iceberg. The A1 and A2 levels are what most German learners encounter at the surface. They're where you build your foundation, basic grammar, simple vocabulary, and your first steps at speaking and understanding German. But as with any iceberg, what's beneath the surface is much deeper, more complex, and far less explored. B1 to C2 levels represent the true depths of the language, nuanced grammar, cultural idioms, and advanced expressions that many learners simply never reach. But it all starts with today's video, well above the surface at the A1 level. Just like I'll be doing for every video in this series, I'll include 4 components that you need to understand at this level. I'll start with a quick overview of what the level is and what you can expect to achieve at this stage. Then we will dissect the official CEFR description at the A1 level so you know exactly how your skills will be measured so that you can take a shortcut to conquering the A1 proficiency exam, no matter which version you take. Next, I'll show you a list of grammar topics that you'll need to master at this level. I have lessons on this channel for almost every topic at this level, so I've included a ton of links in the description if you want to start down your journey today. Finally, I'll show you conversational and communicative topics that you'll need to focus on before you take the A1 exam. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear roadmap of what it takes to consider yourself A1 German beginner or to pass the A1 exam. Also, don't forget to check the video description for additional resources to practice what I introduce here. Let's start with a general overview. In the A1 levels, learners can communicate at the most basic level about themselves and their immediate surroundings. This only requires vocabulary of around 500 words in German, and most learners can reach this level after only about 40 to 50 hours of study. I don't recommend staying up for that long trying to get it all done at once, so this usually translates to about 1 to 3 months of German learning. The Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, or CEFR, is a set of standards that describes language proficiency and can be used to measure any language. While this is obviously meant for European language learners based on the name, it's so incredibly well done that many people around the world, including myself, use this as a way to measure what learners need to know and how they measure up on the road to fluency. Each level is broken up into 5 parts: listening, reading, spoken interaction, spoken production, and writing. For this part of the video, I'll read the official description from the CEFR and then add more information if I think it will help you understand better. Listening. I can recognize familiar words and very basic phrases concerning myself, my family, and immediate concrete surroundings when people speak slowly and clearly. Pretty straightforward. If you just started learning German within the last few months, you will need people to speak slowly and clearly, and you are only going to understand the most familiar words and the most basic phrases about yourself, your family, and your immediate concrete surroundings. Reading. I can understand familiar names, words, and very simple sentences. For example, on notices and posters or in catalogs. You aren't reading any big novels at this level, although the book Nachbar Nummer 5 by Angelika Bohn is a good one to try if you think you're up to the challenge. You should be able to get the general idea from a poster that shows the name of someone and then some basic information about an upcoming event, for example. Spoken interaction. I can interact in a simple way provided the other person is prepared to repeat or rephrase things at a slower rate of speech and to help me formulate what I'm trying to say. I can ask and answer simple questions in areas of my immediate need or on very familiar topics. Again, the person to whom you are speaking has to speak slowly and clearly about the topics with which you are familiar. This is the same as the listening one, but it requires you to be able to speak on those topics too and respond properly to the prompt that you're given. We'll get more into the concrete examples of how this works towards the end of the video, when we get to the topics that you'll need to be familiar with. Spoken production. I can use simple phrases and sentences to describe where I live and the people I know. Not quite caveman, but you certainly aren't giving a speech in front of the UN General Assembly at this level. Ich bin Levi, Ich spreche Deutsch. Ich bin Deutschlehrer. I'm Levi. I speak German. I'm a teacher. Writing. I can write a short, simple postcard. For example, sending holiday greetings. I can fill in forms with personal details, for example, entering my name, nationality, and address on a hotel registration form. This is one of the most overlooked aspects at this level. It specifically says you should be able to write a simple postcard. Hallo Mama, liebe Grüße aus Hamburg. Ich bin gerade in Deutschland. Das Wetter hier ist schön. Ich komme bald wieder nach Hause. Bis dann, dein Levi. Hi Mom, greetings from Hamburg. I'm in Germany right now. The weather is nice here. I'm coming home soon. See you soon. Necessary grammar. For this portion of the video, I'm going to simply list the topics as there are quite a few here, and giving you a real description of them would require this video to be forever long, and I don't have that kind of time on my hands. That said, there are links in the description to this video for lessons about all of these things that are on this list. So if you want to learn more about any of these topics, click the links in the description. Nouns and articles. Genders of nouns, masculine, feminine, and neuter, der, die, and das. Singular versus plural nouns. Definite and indefinite articles, der, die, and das versus ein, eine, and ein. Negation with kein and its declensions. Cases, nominative and accusative. Nominative case for subjects, der Hund läuft, the dog is running. Accusative case for direct objects, ich sehe den Hund, I see the dog. Declension of articles in the nominative and accusative cases, der changing to den and ein changing to einen for the masculine forms. Verbs. Verb conjugation in the present tense for regular verbs, machen, lernen, spielen, and so on. Common irregular verbs in the present tense, such as sein and haben. Modal verbs, können, müssen, wollen, dürfen, sollen, mögen. Separable verbs, especially the most common ones, such as aufstehen, mitkommen, einkaufen, and so on. Basic usage of reflexive verbs, sich waschen and sich freuen specifically. Sentence structure. Basic word order in main clauses, subject, verb, object. Ich lerne Deutsch. I am learning German. Word order with modal verbs. Ich möchte Deutsch lernen. I would like to learn German. Yes-no questions. Kommst du aus Deutschland? Are you from Germany? W questions, as in the ones with question words. Wer, was, wo, wann, warum, wie. Those are the ones that you need to focus on at this level. There are more complicated question words you can do later. This includes who, what, where, when, why, and how. Negation with nicht, as in where to put that word in the sentence. Pronouns, specifically the personal pronouns in the nominative case. Ich, du, er, sie, es, wir, ihr, sie, sie. Personal pronouns in the accusative case should also be learned at this level, which are mich, dich, ihn, sie, es, uns, euch, sie, and sie. Possessive pronouns in the nominative case, mein, dein, sein, ihr, sein, unser, euer, ihr, and ihr. The declension of the word dieser, 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 dieses, and diesen. Adjectives, specifically predicate adjectives and adverbs. Das Haus ist groß. The house is large. Basic adjective endings with a definite article. Der große Hund, the large dog. Basic comparative and superlative forms of adjectives and adverbs. Groß, größer, am größten. Big, bigger, the biggest. Prepositions. Just the accusative prepositions durch, für, gegen, ohne, and through, for, against, without, and around. And the basic dative prepositions aus, bei, mit, nach, seit, von, and zu. Notice I skipped over außer. Out of, at, with, after, since, from, and to. You need a few of the two-way prepositions at this level as well, which can use either the accusative or dative cases. In, an, auf, hinter, über, unter, vor, neben, and zwischen. In, on, another on, between, under, before, next to, and between. You need coordinating conjunctions, specifically und, oder, aber, denn, and, or, but, and because. Subordinating conjunctions, but not all of them, and just the super simple ones like weil and das, or because and that. Keep in mind with all of these topics at the A1 level, you are just scratching the surface of these topics. You aren't learning all 4 cases in the German language. You aren't learning every aspect of these 2 cases that you're learning either. Not all of the prepositions, just some of them. Not all of the details and minutiae that goes along with these prepositions, just the surface level. I can use these words in a very constrained circumstance. Conversational and communicative topics. Grammar is nice and all, but if you can't communicate with the language, what are you even doing? At the A1 level, you need just the very basics. That includes the following topics: numbers and time, cardinal numbers such as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and ordinal numbers, der erste, der zweite, der dritte, the first, the second, the third. Telling time, wie spät ist es? Es ist 14 Uhr. What time is it? It's 2 p.m. Days of the week, months and seasons. Expressions of time with prepositions such as am Montag and im Januar or 10 Uhr, on Monday, in January, or at 10 o'clock. Introducing yourself. You need to know your name, age, residence, origin, nationality, and occupation at this level. Family, specifically your immediate family members and traits about them. Talking about hobbies. Ich spiele gern Fußball. I like to play soccer. Expressing likes and dislikes. Ich mag, ich hasse, I like, or I hate. Daily routine. What do you do when you get up, at work, at home, etc. Shopping. Groceries and clothing mostly. Dining. Ordering out and your likes and dislikes. Traveling. How to get directions, transportation, and tickets. Weather. Describe it and the seasons that it happens in. Home. Your household items and activities. Health. How you are feeling and asking for someone's help. Again, you are just scratching the surface of these topics. No one is asking you to learn the German word for Ascot at this level. Come to think of it, I actually don't know really the word for Ascot in German. When you say you need to be able to talk about shopping for clothes, we mean the basics: shirt, pants, socks, shoes, etc. I like to tell my students that when they first get to my German class, they are now like a 1-year-old in German. This is about the age when children start to speak their native language. They start with some basic words, mama, dada, teddy, etc. Then they gradually build vocabulary for the things that they need in their most immediate surroundings. Words for food, drink, and eat. And they also learn to count. By the time that you're done with the A1 level, you will have aged up to about a 2 or 3-year-old. I have a 3-year-old right now in my house, and I can't understand half of what he's saying. Based on how much he listens whenever I tell him something, I don't think he understands me that much either. That will be true of your German skills at this level too. People say that children learn languages faster or more easily than adults, but those people are stupid. You aren't a child, at least based on the demographic information from my YouTube analytics. You are a fully functioning person who has already learned at least English. If not, this video has probably been very bewildering to you. Learning a second language should go faster than your first. That doesn't mean that you won't need to be patient with yourself. It will likely be difficult at times, but unlike my 3-year-old, you have the executive functioning skills to persevere through adversity. You will not fall on the ground and flail around when a German speaker doesn't understand what you just said when you're asking for cookies. You will figure it out just like the millions of German learners before you. The best part is you don't have to do it alone. The internet is a glorious place full of free resources like the lessons that you'll find on this channel and others like it, as well as courses, books, seminars, communities, and conversation groups. Go to GermanWithAntrim.com to download my full list of resources that I would use if I had to learn German from scratch, and check out the links in the description to start your German learning journey today and get into the depths of the German iceberg. In today's video, I'll show you the A2 level, the second and final layer at the surface of the water. If A1 was about learning how to introduce yourself and communicate in simple and immediate contexts, A2 is where you expand your abilities, hold slightly longer conversations, and handle more practical situations. By the end of this video, you'll have a roadmap for mastering A2 German and feel ready to take on this level. Don't forget to check the video description for links to additional lessons and resources. Let's dive into the A2 level. At the A2 level, learners can communicate in simple and routine tasks that require a direct information exchange. You'll start handling slightly more complex situations, such as shopping for more specific items, making travel arrangements, or describing your daily life and past experiences. Your vocabulary expands to about 1,000 words, and most learners reach this level after approximately 150 to 200 hours of study, roughly 6 months of consistent effort. A2 is about growing your confidence and becoming more independent in basic communication. It's still simple, but you'll start to notice a shift in your ability to understand and express more than just the basics. For this part of the video, I'll read the official description from CEFR and then add more information if I think it will help you understand better. Listening. I can understand phrases and the highest frequency vocabulary related to areas of most immediate personal reference. Example, very basic personal and family information, shopping, local area, employment. I can catch the main point in short, clear, simple messages and announcements. At A2, you'll still need people to speak slowly and clearly, but you can handle more practical topics. For example, you might understand train announcements like Der Zug nach München fährt 14 Uhr von Gleis 3 ab. The train to Munich is departing at 2 p.m. from track 3. Reading. I can read very short, simple texts. I can find specific, predictable information in everyday material such as advertisements, prospectuses, menus, and timetables, and I can understand short, simple personal letters. At this level, you'll begin to recognize simple written German in everyday context. You might read a train schedule or a menu and understand most of the important details, like the times or prices. Spoken interaction. I can communicate in simple and routine tasks requiring a simple and direct exchange of information on familiar topics and activities. I can handle very short social exchanges, even though I can't usually understand enough to keep the conversation going myself. You'll start to handle more practical exchanges like asking for directions. Entschuldigung, wo ist die nächste Apotheke? Excuse me, where is the nearest pharmacy? And understanding simple answers like Gehen Sie geradeaus und dann links. Go straight ahead and then left. Spoken production. I can use a series of phrases and sentences to describe in simple terms my family and other people, living conditions, my educational background, and my present or most recent job. You'll go beyond single sentences to short, simple descriptions. For example, Ich wohne in einer kleinen Wohnung in Berlin. Es gibt ein Schlafzimmer, eine Küche und ein Wohnzimmer. I live in a small apartment in Berlin. There is a bedroom, a kitchen, and a living room. Writing. I can write short, simple notes and messages relating to matters in areas of immediate needs. I can write a very simple personal letter, for example, thanking someone for something. You can write short texts like an email to a friend. Hallo Anna, vielen Dank für deine Einladung. Ich komme am Samstag 15 Uhr. Bis bald. Hello Anna, thank you for the invitation. I am coming on Saturday at 3 p.m. See you soon. And now for the necessary grammar. Nouns and articles. Dative case for indirect objects. Ich gebe dem Mann das Buch. I am giving the man the book. Genitive case for possession. Das ist das Buch des Lehrers. This is the book of the teacher, or this is the teacher's book. Declension of articles across all four cases: nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive. Weak nouns, or nouns that take an N for every case except nominative. Der Junge, den Jungen. Compound nouns. Hausaufgabenheft, homework notebook. Verbs. The imperative mood, command form in all of its forms. The past tense in the Präteritum of common verbs like war, hatte, ging, and kam. The present perfect tense for regular and irregular verbs. Ich habe gespielt, ich bin gegangen. Separable verbs in the perfect tense. Ich habe eingekauft. Reflexive verbs in accusative and dative. Ich freue mich. Ich wasche mir die Hände. Verbs with fixed prepositions such as warten auf and sprechen mit. Future tense with werden. Ich werde morgen lernen. Sentence structure. Subordinate clauses and their word order with das, weil, wenn, and ob. Relative clauses. Das ist der Mann, der im Park läuft. That is the man who is running in the park. Indirect questions. Kannst du mir sagen, wo der Bahnhof ist? Word order with time, manner, and place. Ich gehe morgen mit Freunden ins Kino. I'm going to the movie theater tomorrow with friends. Conjunctions that change the word order, such as deshalb, trotz, and dann. Pronouns, specifically reflexive pronouns in the dative case. Ich kaufe mir ein Buch. I am buying myself a book. Demonstrative pronouns in accusative and dative. Denen, diesem, and jenen, for example. Relative pronouns in the nominative and accusative and also the dative case. Der, die, das, dem, and denen. Interrogative pronouns, also known as question words, such as wessen, whose. Adjectives, specifically adjective endings with indefinite articles in all cases. Ein großer Hund, eines großen Hundes. Adjectives with dative prepositions. Zufrieden mit, interessiert an, and so on. Comparatives with als and so wie. Er ist größer als ich. Sie ist so nett wie er. Adjectives as nouns. Der Alte, die Junge. Prepositions, such as the genitive prepositions trotz, während, wegen, and anstatt. Also the two-way prepositions with the accusative case used with motion and dative case used with location. Ich stelle das Buch auf den Tisch. Das Buch liegt auf dem Tisch. Fixed prepositional phrases such as im Gegensatz zu or auf jeden Fall. Modal verbs, specifically modal verbs in the past tense. Ich musste, du konntest, wollte. Modal verbs with multiple verbs in a sentence. Ich hätte gehen müssen. Conjunctions, such as the subordinating conjunctions bevor, nachdem, obwohl, damit, and so on. Compound conjunctions or two-part conjunctions, sowohl als auch. Weder, noch. Entweder, oder. The basics of the passive voice. Present tense passive, for instance, der Brief wird geschrieben. The simple past version of passive, der Brief wurde geschrieben. Conditional sentences, such as very basics with conditional with wenn. Wenn ich Zeit habe, helfe ich dir. And the conjunctive 2 for polite requests, such as könnten Sie mir helfen? What does this all mean in practical terms? What can you actually talk about at this level? This list should cover it, expressing time and quantity. More complex time expressions such as vor 2 Jahren and in 3 Wochen. Approximation with circa or etwas or ungefähr. Expressing frequencies such as manchmal, selten, oft or meistens. Using mehr als and weniger als for comparisons. Ich habe mehr Zeit als du. Expressing emotions and opinions. Ich bin enttäuscht, dass. Ich denke, dass. Describing events and activities. Es war ein schöner Tag, weil... This includes past events, by the way. Describing your daily routine in more detail. Morgens stehe ich auf, frühstücke und fahre zur Arbeit. Making plans for the future. Am Samstag werde ich mich mit Freunden treffen. On Saturday, I will meet up with friends. Shopping for specific items. Ich suche ein paar Schuhe in Größe 42. I'm looking for a pair of shoes in size 42. Asking for and giving directions. Gehen Sie geradeaus und dann rechts. Go straight ahead and then right. Talking about your job or studies. Ich bin Lehrer. Ich arbeite in einer Schule. I am a teacher. I work in a school. Giving advice and making suggestions. Du solltest mehr Deutsch sprechen. You should speak more German. That's what you need at the A2 level. At this stage, you're expanding your skills and becoming more independent in everyday German. If you're ready to take the next step, check out the resources linked in the description. And if you want to take a deeper dive into the iceberg, stay tuned for the next video where we will explore the B1 level. The B1 level marks the transition from beginner to intermediate German. While A1 and A2 are about building a basic foundation, B1 is where you begin to expand your communication skills, navigate more complex situations, and develop a deeper understanding of the language. You'll gain the ability to discuss a wider range of topics, express your opinions, and explain your reasoning behind it. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of what it means to be at the B1 level and how to prepare for it. Be sure to check the video description for links to resources and lessons to help you along the way. Let's dive into the B1 level. The general overview. At the B1 level, you become an independent user of German. This means you can handle most everyday conversations, talk about familiar topics, and even express your thoughts and opinions in simple terms. You'll begin to understand the main points of spoken and written German in standard language, especially when it comes to work, school, or leisure-related activities. The vocab at this level expands to about 2,000 to 2,500 words, and most learners reach B1 after approximately 300 to 400 hours of study, usually about 1 to 1.5 years of consistent practice. Now for the CEFR explanation. Listening. I can understand the main points of clear, standard speech on familiar matters regularly encountered in work, school, leisure, etc. I can understand the main points of many radio or TV programs on current affairs or topics of personal or professional interest when the delivery is relatively slow and clear. At this point, you can follow conversations about everyday topics and grasp the overall idea of audio content like podcasts or news clips, as long as they aren't too fast. For example, you might understand a radio segment about an upcoming festival. Am Wochenende fängt das Oktoberfest in München an. Es gibt viele Attraktionen und gutes Essen. This weekend, the Oktoberfest in Munich starts. There are many attractions and good food. Reading. I can understand text that consist mainly of high-frequency, everyday, or job-related language. I can understand the description of events, feelings, and wishes in personal letters. You'll be able to read simple articles, emails, and even short stories, and get the gist of them. For example, you can follow an article about tips for saving money, or reading a letter from a friend describing their recent vacation. Spoken interaction. I can deal with most situations likely to arise whilst traveling in an area where the language is spoken. I can enter unprepared into conversation on topics that are familiar, of personal interest, or pertinent to everyday life. Example, families, hobbies, work, travel, and current events. At this level, you can participate in conversations about your interests, work, or studies. For example, you could handle a conversation about your favorite hobbies. Ich spiele gern Tennis. Und du? Was magst du in deiner Freizeit? I like to play tennis. And you? What do you like to do in your free time? Spoken production. I can connect phrases in a simple way in order to describe experiences and events, my dreams, hopes, and ambitions. I can briefly give reasons and explanations for opinions and plans. I can narrate a story or relate the plot of a book or film and describe my reactions. You'll begin to express yourself with more than just simple sentences. For example, you can describe a recent trip. Letztes Jahr bin ich nach Hamburg gefahren. Es war sehr interessant, weil ich das Miniatur-Wunderland besucht habe. Last year, I drove to Hamburg. It was very interesting because I visited the miniature wonderland. Writing. I can write simple, connected text on topics which are familiar or of personal interest. I can write personal letters describing experiences and impressions. You'll start to write longer texts like emails or short essays. For example, you could write an email thanking a friend for their help. Vielen Dank für deine Unterstützung bei meinem Projekt. Ohne deine Hilfe hätte ich das nicht geschafft. Thank you for your support with my project. Without your help, I wouldn't have accomplished it. Necessary grammar. At the B1 level, you'll start to solidify your understanding of basic grammar and expand into more complex structures. You'll notice that you have a lot of topics listed at this level that are also listed at other levels, including the A2 level, which is below this one. That's because at each level you are expanding your understanding of those topics and learning new ways to use the grammar that you haven't learned before. Here's a list of grammar topics that you should master at the B1 level, with links in the description for most of them. Verbs. Konjunktiv 2 for hypotheticals and politeness. Wenn ich Zeit hätte, könnten Sie mir helfen? If I had time, could you help me? Futur 2 for what will be done in the future. Wird gegangen sein. He will have gone. Fixed prepositions. Sich freuen auf. Abhängen von. Denken an. To look forward to depend on, and to think about. Verbs requiring the genitive case. Sich bedienen, sich bewusst sein, to be used to something, to appreciate or be aware of. Past tense with passive voice. Das Auto wurde repariert. The car was repaired. Lassen constructions. Ich lasse meine Haare schneiden. I am getting my hair cut, or I'm letting my hair be cut. Sentence structure. Subordinate clauses with indem, so dass, da, and obwohl. Whilst, so that, because, and although. Relative clauses with prepositions. Die Frau, mit der ich gesprochen habe, the woman with whom I spoke. Conditional sentences. Wenn ich das gewusst hätte, if I had known that. Advanced word order. Je mehr ich lerne, desto besser werde ich. The more I learn, the better I become. Nouns and articles. Genitive case with prepositions. Wegen des Regens. Because of the rain. Declension of adjectives as nouns. Der Kleine ist schneller als der Große. The little one is faster than the tall one. Expanded use of weak nouns. Der Junge becoming des Jungen and dem Jungen, the boy. Pronouns. Advanced relative pronouns. Dessen and deren, which both mean whose. Indefinite pronouns such as jemand, niemand, man, and etwas. someone, no one, and something or some. Demonstrative pronouns like dieser, jener, derselbe, this, that, and the same. Adjectives. Adjective endings in all four cases. Comparative phrases. Je mehr, desto besser. The more, the better. Adjectives with prepositional complements. Interessiert an, stolz auf, abhängig von, interested in, proud of, and dependent on. Prepositions. Idiomatic expressions such as im Rahmen von and in Bezug auf, with the frame of and with regards to. Prepositional adverbs. Darauf, daran, damit, upon that, on that, and with that. Genitive prepositions. Trotz, wegen, and während, despite, because of, and during. The passive voice. Modal verbs in the passive voice. Das muss gemacht werden. That had to be done. Past tense of modal verbs in the passive voice. Das hätte gemacht werden können. This could have been done. Impersonal passive voice. Es wird getanzt. There is dancing. Reported speech or indirekte Rede. Present. Sagt, habe keine Zeit. He says he doesn't have time. Past. Sagte, hätte keine Zeit gehabt. He said he wouldn't have time. Conversational and communicative topics. At B1, you should practice speaking about a wider range of topics and begin discussing opinions and experiences. Here's a list to guide your practice. Everyday functional communication. Making and changing appointments. Ich wollte fragen, ob wir unseren Termin verschieben können. Passt dir Montag 10 Uhr besser? I wanted to ask if our appointment could be postponed. Does Monday at 10 o'clock work better for you? Dealing with problems and complaints. Die Heizung funktioniert nicht. Können Sie jemand schicken? Ich habe ein Problem mit meiner Bestellung. The heat doesn't work. Can you send someone? I have a problem with my order. Giving and asking for advice. Was soll ich tun, wenn ich in Deutschland krank werde? Ich empfehle dir, einen Arzt aufzusuchen. What should I do if I get sick in Germany? I recommend you find a doctor. Explaining rules and instructions. Zuerst drücken Sie den grünen Knopf, dann wählen Sie eine Option. First push the green button, then choose an option. Emotions, reactions, and preferences. Reacting to news or experiences. Das klingt spannend. Ich war total überrascht, als ich das gehört habe. That sounds exciting. I was completely surprised when I heard that. Expressing hopes, dreams, and wishes. Ich hoffe, dass ich bald eine Arbeit finde. Ich würde gern mal nach Österreich reisen. I hope that I find work soon. I would like to travel to Austria once. Comparing options and expressing preferences. Ich finde das Haus schöner als die Wohnung. Lieber Kaffee als Tee, bitte. I find the house more beautiful than the apartment. Coffee rather than tea, please. Life situations. Finding housing or describing living situations. Ich suche eine Wohnung in der Nähe vom Zentrum. Meine Wohnung hat 2 Zimmer und einen Balkon. I'm looking for an apartment near the city center. My apartment has 2 rooms and a balcony. Navigating bureaucracy. Wo bekomme ich einen Anmeldeschein? Ich brauche einen Termin im Bürgerbüro. Where can I get a registration form? I need an appointment at the citizen's office. Talking about finances or budgeting. Ich muss diesen Monat sparen. Wie viel kostet das Ticket? I have to save money this month. How much does the ticket cost? Culture and media. Discussing TV shows, books and movies. Ich habe gestern einen spannenden Krimi gesehen. Das Buch war interessant, aber das Ende war enttäuschend. I watched a thrilling crime story yesterday. The book was interesting, but the ending was disappointing. Talking about traditions and holidays. Wie feiert man Weihnachten in Deutschland? Bei uns gibt es am 6. Dezember den Nikolaus. How do people celebrate Christmas in Germany? We celebrate St. Nicholas on the 6th of December. Describing cultural differences. In Deutschland ist Pünktlichkeit sehr wichtig. In meinem Heimatland machen wir das anders. In Germany, punctuality is very important. In my home country, we do things differently. School, work, and career. Describing educational experiences. Ich habe in meiner Heimat Biologie studiert. Ich mache eine Ausbildung als Elektriker. I studied biology in my home country. I'm training to be an electrician. Talking about job applications and work tasks. Ich habe mich eine Stelle als Verkäufer beworben. In meinem Job telefoniere ich viel mit Kunden. I've applied for a sales position. My job involves a lot of phone calls with customers, handling interviews or introducing professional experience. Ich habe 3 Jahre Erfahrung im Kundenservice. I have 3 years of experience in customer service. Emergencies and unexpected situations, describing an accident or emergency. Ich habe mir den Arm verletzt. Es tut sehr weh. Es gab einen Unfall auf der Straße. I injured my arm. It hurts a lot. There was an accident on the road. Calling for help or describing symptoms. Ich brauche einen Arzt. Ich habe Kopfschmerzen und Fieber. I need a doctor. I have a headache and a fever. That's what you need to reach B1 proficiency in German. You're no longer just dabbling, you're functioning. Sure, you'll make mistakes, but you're thinking in the language, navigating the culture, and growing your confidence every day. B1 is your passport to independence in German. You're through the surface of the water, and you're ready to explore the vast iceberg beneath. And in the next video, we'll dive even deeper into the B2 level, where things get really exciting. Now we're going a bit deeper. B2 is where German really gets interesting. It's the level where your German stops sounding like it came straight from a textbook and starts sounding like you. You can interact spontaneously, speak with confidence, and express abstract ideas. You'll still make a few mistakes, we all do, but the training wheels are officially off. First, a general overview. At the B2 level, you're considered an independent user of the German language with upper intermediate skills. This means that you can hold extended conversations, give clear explanations, and understand most of what you hear and read, especially in familiar contexts. You'll be expected to express and defend your opinions, understand arguments, and follow more complex speech patterns. Your vocabulary grows to around 4,000 to 5,000 words, and learners typically reach this level after about 500 to 600 hours of study, or about 2 to 3 years of consistent learning. B2 is also the level that is often required to study at a German university or to work in a German-speaking environment. So this is the goal for a lot of German learners. Let's break down the B2 level with the official CEFR descriptions along with real-world examples to help you visualize what this looks like in action. Listening. I can understand extended speech and lectures and follow even complex lines of argument provided the topic is reasonably familiar. I can understand most TV news and current affairs programs. I can understand the majority of films in standard dialect. This is obviously why it's the level that you need to achieve in order to study at a German university. If you can't understand speeches and lectures, you're going to have a tough time at the university. Reading. I can read articles and reports concerned with contemporary problems in which the writers adopt particular attitudes or viewpoints. I can understand contemporary literary prose. You're not just reading about things, you're understanding how they're being presented and why. You can pick up on tone, perspective, and implied meaning. Spoken interaction. I can interact with a degree of fluency and spontaneity that makes regular interaction with native speakers quite possible. I can take an active part in discussions in familiar settings, accounting for and sustaining my views. You can argue your point in a debate, respond to challenging questions, and keep a group conversation going even when the topic shifts. Spoken production. I can present clear, detailed descriptions on a wide range of subjects related to my field of interest. I can explain a viewpoint on a topical issue given the advantages and disadvantages of various options. You'll start to notice as we dive deeper into the German learning iceberg that a lot of the phrasing includes things like in my field of interest or in specialized areas. This is because the further down you go in the iceberg, the more specific the vocabulary and conversation skills become. Writing. I can write clear, detailed text on a wide range of subjects. I can write an essay or report, passing on information or giving reasons in support of or against a particular point of view. You can compose emails, letters, or opinion pieces with structure, flow, and argumentation. No more writing like a robot, although I have seen ChatGPT write quite eloquently at this level. Necessary grammar. At the B2 level, grammar is all about precision, flexibility, and nuance. Here's what you need to know. Verbs. Konjunktiv 1 for reported speech in formal contexts. Er sagte, habe keine Zeit. He said he has no time. Passive voice in multiple tenses, especially with modal verbs. Das Problem hätte gelöst werden können. The problem could have been solved. Double infinitives. Ich hätte kommen können. Er scheint gegangen zu sein. I could have come. He seems to have left. Verbs with fixed prepositions and idiomatic usage. Denken an. Sich konzentrieren auf. Sich wundern über. To think about. To concentrate on. To wonder about. Advanced reflexive verbs. Sich etwas aneignen. Sich bemühen um. To acquire something. To strive for. Sentence structure. Complex subordinate clauses. Obwohl er krank war, ist er zur Arbeit gegangen. Even though he was sick, he went to work. Final clauses with damit. Ich schreibe es auf, damit ich es nicht vergesse. I'm writing it down so that I don't forget. Relative clauses with prepositions and genitive. Das ist die Frau, deren Sohn ich kenne. This is the woman whose son I know. Pronouns. Expanded relative pronouns. Dessen, deren, worüber, wovon. Whose, whose, about what, and of what. Indefinite pronouns. Irgendjemand, niemand, etwas, alles, anyone, nobody, something, and everything, for example. Demonstrative pronouns for emphasis. Dieses Problem müssen wir jetzt lösen. We have to solve this problem now. Adjectives. Adjective endings with all four cases. Adjective phrases with prepositions. Verantwortlich für, bekannt für, stolz auf. Responsible for, known for, and proud of. Participle adjectives. Eine beeindruckende Leistung, ein enttäuschtes Gesicht. An impressive performance, a disappointed face. Prepositions. The genitive prepositions während, wegen, trotz, and statt or anstatt. During, because of, despite, and instead of. Prepositional adverbs like damit, darüber, and worüber, with that, and about what. More idiomatic prepositional phrases. Im Laufe der Zeit, im Gegensatz zu, zur Verfügung stehen, over time, as opposed to be available, reported speech or indirekte Rede. Complete mastery of the Konjunktiv 1 when it's used with formal writing and speech reporting. Er erklärte, er sei krank gewesen und habe deshalb abgesagt. He explained that he was sick and therefore cancelled. Passive voice. Specifically passive voice with modal verbs. Die Hausaufgaben müssen gemacht werden. Die Probleme hätten gelöst werden sollen. The homework must be done. The problems should have been solved. More complex, interpersonal passive constructions. Es wurde darüber diskutiert. It was discussed. Conversational and communicative topics. This is where the rubber meets the road. At B2, you're expected to navigate real-world situations, express abstract thoughts, and adapt your speech to different audiences. Here's what you should be able to do at this level. Express complex thoughts and opinions. Explain your viewpoint and defend it. Ich bin der Meinung, dass Online-Unterricht viele Vorteile bietet. I am of the opinion that online instruction offers many advantages. Weigh pros and cons. Einerseits ist das umweltfreundlich. Andererseits teuer. On one side, it is environmentally friendly. On the other side, expensive. Express uncertainty and speculation. Es könnte sein, dass sich verspätet hat. It could be that he's running late. Discuss society, culture, and current events. Talk about political or environmental issues. Die steigenden Mieten in Großstädten sind ein großes Problem. Rising rents in big cities are a large problem. Compare cultural practices. In den USA is Smalltalk üblich. In Deutschland weniger. Smalltalk is common in the United States, less so in Germany. Comment on media or public opinion. Die Berichterstattung war meiner Meinung nach einseitig. In my opinion, the reporting was one-sided. School, work, and professional life. Talk about your studies or your job. Ich habe eine Ausbildung als Mechatroniker gemacht. I trained as a mechatronics engineer. Apply for a job or prepare for interviews. Ich bin teamfähig, belastbar und arbeite gern eigenständig. I am a team player, able to work under pressure, and enjoy working independently. Discuss career goals and training. Ich möchte mich beruflich weiterentwickeln. I want to develop further professionally. Social interactions and problem solving. Handle complaints. Entschuldigung, aber das Zimmer war nicht sauber. Sorry, but the room was not clean. Resolve misunderstandings. Das war nicht so gemeint. Ich wollte nur sagen, dass... I didn't mean that. I just wanted to say that... Negotiate and compromise. Wir könnten uns in der Mitte treffen und morgen 9 Uhr beginnen. We could meet in the middle and start tomorrow at 9 a.m. Everyday situations, but with complexity. Rent an apartment and discuss leasing terms. Navigate official processes like Anmeldung, visa, or healthcare. Make and change plans fluently. Explain complex travel arrangements or logistics. Narrate events and experiences, such as telling a story with emotional nuance. Letztes Jahr bin ich spontan nach Prag gefahren. Es war fantastisch, besonders das Altstadtviertel. Last year I spontaneously went to Prague. It was fantastic, especially the Old Town district. Describe feelings and reactions. Ich war total überwältigt von der Atmosphäre. I was totally overwhelmed by the atmosphere. Technology and communication. Discuss the impact of social media or technology on life. Social media verändert unsere Kommunikation grundlegend. Social media is fundamentally changing our communication. Explain how to use tools or apps. Talk about online safety and privacy. Explain processes and give instructions. Explain how something works. Das Gerät zu starten, muss man zuerst den grünen Knopf drücken. To start the device, you must first press the green button. Describe step-by-step processes in clear terms. That's what it takes to master the B2 level. You're no longer learning German just to survive. You're learning German to connect, to think, to work, to live in the language. This is where fluency starts to feel real. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. The next level is C1. It's about finesse, style, and high-level performance. But for now, soak in everything that the B2 level has to offer. Now we're entering C1, and this is where the language truly becomes yours. C1 is all about style, nuance, flexibility, and precision. You don't just speak German, you craft it. C1 is often described as the level of professional and academic fluency. You can follow fast, complex speech. You can speak without searching for words. You can understand abstract text and produce elegant, well-structured writing. Whether it's a casual conversation or a formal debate, you can adapt your language to the situation. Your vocabulary grows to around 8,000 words, and most learners can hit this level after about 700 to 800 hours of study. While you're allowed to study at a German university at the B2 level, the C1 level will allow you to thrive at German universities, giving public presentations or working in high communication jobs like journalism, law, or education. You've got the skills, now it's about using them with confidence and control. Let's break down the official CEFR description of C1 section by section. Listening. I can understand extended speech even when it's not clearly structured and when relationships are only implied and not signaled explicitly. I can understand television programs and films without too much effort. You can follow fast conversations, live debates, and even understand speakers who use idioms, jokes, or regional accents as long as you are somewhat familiar with the topic. This is also the level at which you can keep up in a loud and crowded Biergarten when 3 other conversations are going on at the same time. Reading. I can understand long and complex factual and literary texts, appreciating distinctions of style. I can understand specialized articles and longer technical instructions even when they do not relate to my field. This means that you can read novels, editorials, academic studies, and legal documents, and actually get the tone, intonation, and underlying meaning. You'll notice it specifically says, even when it does not relate to my field. This means you are expanding your vocabulary and your knowledge beyond what you are usually focused on. Spoken interaction. I can express myself fluently and spontaneously without much obvious searching for expressions. I can use language flexibly and effectively for social and professional purposes. You can jump into a meeting or a roundtable discussion or a spirited dinner conversation and hold your own with style. Spoken production. I can present clear, detailed descriptions of complex subjects, integrating sub-themes, developing particular points, and rounding off with an appropriate conclusion. You can give presentations, moderate discussions, or summarize a nuanced topic like the climate policy or the ethics of AI. Writing. I can express myself in clear, well-structured text, expressing points of view at some length. I can write about complex subjects in a letter, an essay, or a report, underlining what I consider to be the salient issues. You can craft articles, arguments, blog posts, and formal reports. This is another reason that I said that this is the level you really need in order to thrive at a German university. Necessary grammar. At the C1 level, grammar becomes a tool for tone, clarity, and style. You'll revisit many of the same concepts from earlier levels, but now it's all about using them with greater subtlety and in more sophisticated contexts. Verbs. Konjunktiv 2 for nuanced hypotheticals and wishes. Hätte ich mehr Zeit gehabt, wäre ich länger geblieben. If I had more time, I would have stayed longer. Now it's not just used for the structure, but to express a tone, regret, hope, sarcasm, etc. Konjunktiv 1 for formal indirect speech. Die Regierung erklärte, sie habe bereits Maßnahmen ergriffen. The government said it had already taken action. This is used especially in journalism and academic writing. Verbal nouns and nominalizations. Das Reisen erweitert den Horizont. Traveling broadens your horizons. Turning verbs into abstract nouns for more formal writing. Complex separable and inseparable verbs. Übersetzen versus übersetzen. To cross over versus to translate, and durchfahren versus durchfahren, to drive around and to drive through. Advanced modal verb combinations. Hätte sie gehen lassen können. He could have let her go. Double infinitives in passive and conditional contexts. Sentence structure. Deeply nested relative and subordinate clauses. Die Frau, die sagte, dass sie den Mann kenne, der dort wohnt, ist meine Nachbarin. The woman who said she knows the man who lives there is my neighbor. Inversion for emphasis or stylistic variation. Nie zuvor habe ich so etwas erlebt. I have never experienced something like this before. Expanded clause types. Causal. Da keine Zeit hatte, sagte ab. Since he didn't have time, he cancelled. Concessive. Selbst wenn es nicht gewusst hätte, hätte nichts geändert. Even if he had known, he wouldn't have changed anything. Conditional. Wenn du das früher gesagt hättest, hätten wir eine Lösung gefunden. If you had said that earlier, we would have found a solution. Passive voice. Specifically passive voice with modal verbs in various tenses. Das hätte gemacht werden können. That could have been done. Impersonal passive constructions. Es wird erwartet, dass alle pünktlich erscheinen. Everyone is expected to arrive on time. Literally, it is expected that everyone arrives on time. Stylistically elevated style. Es wird angenommen, dass. It is believed that. Nouns and articles. Nominalization in formal writing. Die Einführung neuer Maßnahmen wurde diskutiert. The introduction of new measures was discussed. Advanced weak noun usage. Die Ideen des Gedankens. The ideas of the mind. Die Wünsche des Herzens. The desires of the heart. Pronouns. Advanced relative pronouns with prepositions. Das ist das Thema, über das wir gesprochen haben. That is the topic about which we spoke. Expanded indefinite and demonstrative pronouns. Manche sagen dies, andere sagen das. Some say this, others say that. Adjectives. Participle adjectives. Ein faszinierendes Buch. Eine beschädigte Ware. A fascinating book. A damaged product. Advanced comparative structures. Je anspruchsvoller die Aufgabe, desto größer die Herausforderung. The more demanding the task, the greater the challenge. Prepositional adjective phrases. Geeignet für, suitable for. Angewiesen auf, dependent on. Bekannt für, known for. Prepositions. Genitive prepositions in formal and academic writing. Aufgrund, Ansichts, and in Folge, for instance. Due to, in view of, and as a result of. Prepositional adverbs in nuanced contexts. Daraufhin, thereupon, darüber hinaus, furthermore, and darunter, including. Idiomatic expressions such as im Rahmen von, in the frame of, im Gegensatz zu, as opposed to, zur Verfügung stehen, to be available. Conjunctions, advanced connectors for structured argumentation. So dass, so that. Sofern, provided. wobei, whereby, dennoch, nevertheless. Correlative constructions, nicht nur, sondern auch, je mehr, desto, not only, but also, the more, the. Concessive inversion, auch wenn es schwierig ist, muss es getan werden. Even if it is difficult, it must be done. Tenses, Plusquamperfekt for complex narrative timelines. Nachdem ich angekommen war, begann das Seminar. After I arrived, the seminar began. Futur 2 for assumptions and speculation. Wird wohl schon gegangen sein. He will have probably already left. Reported speech, layered indirect speech. Sagte, dass sie erklärt habe, dass es schon gemacht habe. He said that she explained that he had already done it. Modal particles, used for emotional nuance, stance, or irony. Das ist ja unglaublich. That is incredible. Wird wohl bald ankommen. He'll probably arrive soon. Stylistic tools. Complex negation. Es ist nicht so, als wäre unfähig. Keineswegs war das die Absicht. It's not as if he is incompetent. That was by no means the intention. Formal versus informal register. Ich möchte höflich anfragen versus kannst du mal schnell? I would like to politely request versus can you quickly? Rhetorical questions, parallelism, and emphasis. Wie hätte das anders laufen können? How could things have turned out differently? And now for the conversational and communicative topics. C1 communication means fluid expression through a wide range of contexts, from workplace discussions to philosophical debates. You don't just express your thoughts, you shape the conversation. Here's what you should be able to do at this level. Academic and professional communication. You should be able to present structured arguments in writing and in speech. Defend complex viewpoints with logic and nuance. Participate in academic seminars and discussions. Summarize and critique articles or presentations. Write formal emails, proposals, and reports. Debating and persuasion. Debate controversial issues. Sollte das Tempolimit eingeführt werden? Should the speed limit be introduced? Use persuasive language with hedging or intensification. Man kann nicht leugnen, dass. There's no denying that. Zweifellos spielte das eine entscheidende Rolle. Undoubtedly, it plays a crucial role. Social, cultural, and political topics. Analyze social trends. Die Auswirkung der Digitalisierung auf den Arbeitsmarkt. The impact of digitalization on the labor market. Compare political systems or educational models. Talk about international issues with a clear point of view. Abstract and theoretical topics. Discuss ethics, philosophy, and values. Ist es moralisch vertretbar, persönliche Daten zu sammeln? Is it morally acceptable to collect personal data? Express uncertainty, doubt, or conditional ideas. Wenn das stimmen sollte, müsste man Konsequenzen ziehen. If that were true, one would have to receive consequences. Self-reflection and metacognition. Reflect on personal growth or learning styles. Mir ist aufgefallen, dass ich durch Podcasts schneller lerne. I've noticed that I learn faster through podcasts. Express emotional nuance with subtle vocabulary. Justify decisions and reflect on outcomes. Workplace and collaboration. Take part in business meetings or lead discussions. Negotiate terms or mediate disagreements. Give and receive constructive feedback. Storytelling and descriptions. Tell rich, detailed stories with multiple time frames. Describe tone, mood, intention, and implied meaning. Interpret films, literature, or art with vocabulary beyond just gut und schlecht. C1 is where German becomes an art form. It's no longer just about what you say, but how well you say it. Now you can participate fully in society, work, and education using only German. You can understand complexity and express it clearly. From here, there's only one level left, the C2 level, the bottom of the iceberg. That's where mastery turns into near-native precision. Now we've reached the bottom of the iceberg, C2. This level is the holy grail of language learning, almost native-like fluency. At C2, you can express anything you want, however you want, and adjust your tone, grammar, and vocabulary to fit any context. casual or formal, academic or artistic, heated debate or poetic reflection. At the C2 level, you're considered to be a proficient user of the language. This doesn't mean that you're flawless, it means that your German is no longer limited by language. You have full control. You can read Goethe and understand stylistic choices. You can negotiate a legal contract. You can tell a joke, defend a thesis, or quote philosophy, all in German. Your vocabulary now exceeds 16,000 words, and you've likely studied German for 1,000+ hours across several years. This level is typically required for translators, interpreters, professors, and anyone who uses German at a native or near native level. Let's go through the CEFR description line by line and break it down to the real-world examples. Listening. I have no difficulty in understanding any type of spoken language, whether live or broadcast, even when delivered at fast native speed, provided I have some time to get familiar with the accent. You can follow a rapid-fire podcast, a political debate, or a comedy sketch, and you don't need subtitles. Reading. I can read with ease virtually all forms of the written language, including abstract, structurally or linguistically complex texts such as manuals, specialized articles, and literary works. You can read technical manuals, interpret poetry, or critique philosophical essays and notice subtle implications, humor, and style. Spoken interaction. I can take part effortlessly in any conversation or discussion and have a good familiarity with idiomatic expressions and colloquialisms. I can express myself fluently and convey finer shades of meaning precisely. Whether you're chatting at a bar, negotiating with a client, or debating politics, you can participate naturally and spontaneously. Spoken production. I can present a clear, smoothly flowing description or argument in a style appropriate to the context with an effective logical structure which helps the recipient notice and remember significant points. You can give a TED Talk, tell a gripping story, or present a nuanced argument with the style to match the audience and the subject. Writing. I can write clear, smoothly flowing text in an appropriate style. I can write complex letters, reports, or articles which present a case with an effective logical structure which helps the recipient to notice and remember significant points. You can write everything from formal business reports to blog posts, critiques, reviews, and short stories with tone, rhythm, and style. Necessary grammar. At C2, grammar isn't all about knowing the rules, it's about bending them on purpose. Everything you've learned before comes into play, but now you focus on nuance, register, precision, and rhetorical effectiveness. Verbs. Konjunktiv 1 and 2. Used interchangeably, accurately, and layered. Man behauptet, hat den Vertrag bereits unterschrieben, obwohl gesagt hatte, würde es nicht tun. It is claimed that he has already signed the contract, even though he said he would not. Double infinitives with modal verbs fluidly and correctly. Hätte sie gehen lassen können. He could have let her go. Subtle usage distinctions, such as liegen versus legen or setzen versus sich setzen, but you're using it for stylistic control. Stylistic and literary verbs. Vermochte es nicht zu begreifen. He couldn't understand it. Das sei dahingestellt. That remains to be seen. Sentence structure. Nested clauses with multiple layers. Das ist das Buch, das der Autor, den wir gestern getroffen haben, geschrieben hat und dessen Stil mich begeistert. This is the book written by the author we met yesterday, whose style I love. Elliptical constructions. Kaum zu glauben, hard to believe. Je schneller, desto besser, the faster the better. Cleft sentences and emphasis. Es war genau dieser Moment, der alles veränderte. It was this very moment that changed everything. Passive voice. Differentiating between statal and actional passive. Die Tür ist geöffnet. The door is open. Versus Die Tür wird geöffnet. The door is being opened. Impersonal passive with modal nuance. Es lässt sich nicht leugnen, dass. There is no denying that. Academic passive constructions. Es wird davon ausgegangen, dass. It is assumed that. Pronouns, specifically relative pronouns for tone and formality. Das ist jemand, dessen Meinung ich schätze. This is someone whose opinion I value. Indefinite and reflexive pronouns in abstract contexts. Irgendjemand muss es getan haben. Someone must have done it. nahm sich selbst übel. He resented himself. Adjectives. Participle adjectives for elegance. Eine erschütternde Erkenntnis. A shocking discovery. Ein faszinierendes Phänomen. A fascinating phenomenon. Nominalized adjectives. Das Unbekannte, the unknown. Das Unvermeidliche, the inevitable. Comparative nuance. Ist weitaus überzeugender als erwartet. He is far more convincing than expected. Prepositions. Mastery of genitive prepositions, including aufgrund, due to, ansichts, in view of, infolge, as a result of, gemäß, according to. Abstract prepositional phrases, im Rahmen dessen, within the framework of this, in Anbetracht der Situation, in view of the situation. Prepositional adverbs in precise context. Worüber, about what. Wovon, from what. Wofür, for what. Conjunctions, sophisticated connectors such as sofern, indes, dennoch, and wohingegen. Elegant transitions and argument flow. Nichtsdestotrotz, nevertheless. Folglich, consequently. Darüber hinaus, furthermore. Tenses. Shifts for stylistic purposes. Sagte, habe das Buch gelesen und werde es erneut lesen. He said he had read the book and would read it again. Futur 2 for educated speculation. Wird es wohl längst erledigt haben. He will have probably done it long ago. Reported speech. Mastery of layering reporting. Sagte, dass derjenige, der ihr geschrieben habe, zurückkehren wollte. He said that the person who had written to her wanted to return. Modal particles, used for fine-tuning the tone. Das ist ja kaum zu glauben. That's hard to believe. Wird wohl recht haben. He's probably right. Rhetoric and style. Parallelism, antithesis, and alliteration. Kam, sah, siegte. He came, he saw, he conquered. Formal versus informal register control. Ich möchte höflich anfragen. I would like to politely request versus Hast du das schon gemacht? Have you done this already? Strategic use of rhetorical questions. Wer hätte das gedacht? Who would have thought? Conversational and communicative topics. This is where C2 shines. You're expected to masterfully navigate any conversation, not just linguistically, but socially, emotionally, and intellectually. Here's what you should be able to do. Academic and intellectual. Analyze literary texts, philosophy, or theory. Was symbolisiert Gretchen in Goethe's Faust? What does Gretchen symbolize in Goethe's Faust? Present research or lecture content. Summarize abstract arguments with clarity. Professional contexts. Negotiate complex business deals. Lead meetings or seminars. Write and deliver professional proposals. Draft legal documents or grant applications. Ethics and debate. Discuss moral dilemmas. Darf man aus moralischen Gründen Gesetze brechen? Is it permissible to break laws for moral reasons? Evaluate both sides of a complex issue without bias. Use structured argumentation. Einerseits, andererseits. On the one hand, on the other hand. Dennoch, nevertheless. Culture and society. Compare socio-political systems. Comment on historical patterns or cultural shifts. Analyze political speeches, films, or social media trends. Was sagt dieser Film über die deutsche Gesellschaft aus? What does this film say about German society? Expressing personal voice. Tell personal stories with flair, rhythm, and reflection. Use humor, irony, and sarcasm appropriately. Adjust tone for the audience, such as a child versus a politician or a stranger. Creative and formal writing. You can write essays, blogs, critiques, and short stories. Use stylistic tools like suspense, foreshadowing, metaphor. Vary sentence structure, punctuation, and voice deliberately. Spontaneity and recovery. Recover gracefully from misunderstandings or slips. Paraphrase naturally if you forget a word. Respond to fast, unexpected conversation turns. If you've reached C2, congratulations, you have officially conquered the iceberg. You've gone from introducing yourself to engaging in high-level debates, from Ich bin Lehrer, I am a teacher, to Es scheint mir, als ob dieses Modell eine neue Perspektive auf das Bildungssystem eröffnet. It appears to me as if this model opens a new perspective of the educational system. You've not just learned German, you've made it your own. This isn't the end of your learning, of course, but from here on, you learn like a native would, through conversation, culture, and curiosity. I still learn new words in my native language all the time, so there's no way that I have learned every word there is to know in German, but I possess the skills to figure it out and add new words to my repertoire. Check out the links in the description for more advanced materials, including reading suggestions, literary analysis guides, and formal writing practice. Danke fürs Zuschauen und Mitlernen. Ich wünsche dir weiterhin viel Erfolg und sage bis bald und auf Wiedersehen.